Hello everyone, Princess Full Moon Fall here. Hope y'all are doing wonderful and great. Today we have some more scary stories, and to make it even better, spooky season is right around the corner. I also wanted to apologize. It took a while for me to post because Helene knocked out our power for 6 days and we had to clean up the huge mess. On top of that, my sister has surgery, so we had a lot going on. I hope anyone else who was affected by Helene and Milton are okay.
We heard this story before from Whisper to Me 212, but there are more details now, so I wanted to include it. Shortly after we moved in, my brother's friend nonchalantly asked me if I ever noticed the shadow people that live in my house. He stated that one of the shadow people would follow him home after he visited and stare at him through his bedroom window at night. This was extremely unnerving because I had been witnessing strange things, such as hearing something roll around on the floor upstairs or footsteps, even though no one was up there. Something would sit on the edge of my bed every night. I could feel it sit down. Shadowy hands would squeeze my pillow from underneath it. I would watch the hand come up and slide back down under the pillow that my head rested on. Shapes would jump from one shadowed area to another shadowed area, even though no light source changed. And most terrifying was hearing my name called out by an unknown voice. Guttural and deep-toned, always being projected from the dark corners, closets, and hallways. One time, I ran into the bathroom and slammed the door shut, trying naively to hide from it, only for it to say directly behind me, "Shutting doors won't help you." I was alone in the house at the time. I moved out shortly after. The rest of my family moved out a few months later. I grew up in the desert. There were tons of old mining towns out in the middle of nowhere. My mom took me to one when I was like 7. I remember looking at old shacks that once served as homes and businesses for the miners. One of the shacks had a table that 3 men were leaning on playing cards. They had dirty faces and dirty clothes on. They looked at me and cocked their heads as I peeped into the doorway. I always just assumed they were actors dressed like cowboys, so I smiled and waved my little hand at them. Very vivid memory. 20 years later, my mom and I were talking about all the places we visited when I was a child. I brought up the mining town with the actors. She looked at me surprised and said, "There were no other people there besides us. No actors. That place was completely abandoned. You saw ghosts." The stairway landing was always cold. This landing had no light, natural or otherwise. It was where the voice primarily came from the dark hallway. I always assumed it stayed in the vicinity of the hallway until it followed me to the bathroom. That's when I knew it was free to roam the entire house. I would have nightmares in which I would wake up in my dark room. I was always trying to find the light switch because something was in the darkness with me. I knew it was there, just out of sight. So panicking, I would run from my bed to the light switch on the far wall, but the light switch would never be there. Just a blank wall. That's when I knew I was dreaming because everything else in my room was exactly how it was in real life, except the light switch wasn't there. I would then try to force myself to wake up by screaming in my dream, "Wake up, wake up, wake up." Then I would think I woke up in my bed just to discover that I was still dreaming and still wanting to find the damn light switch. This fake awakening would happen 4 or 5 times until I actually woke up. That dream would happen on a weekly basis. Only in that house. Left the house, left the nightmares.
This story is terrifying. The fact that you kept thinking you were awake would leave me questioning everything and if I actually were awake. When I was a kid, I remember being so scared of the dark and always needed a light. There was one time my sister found me asleep and I woke up in the dark and couldn't find the light switch or even which way to go. I was terrified, so I started screaming, crying, bloody murder, waking up the whole house. So I could only imagine how horrible that was. The other thing that I also wonder is, did those miner ghosts wave back? I need to know.
The next story is from Hunter Syrup 06. So we have a particularly creepy room in our house, which has a history of unsettling events. Initially, My sister had a frightening encounter with a plush toy that seemed to move on its own, and a shadow with red eyes passing outside the room and even directly looking at her. And that's when my parents decided to switch our rooms. After moving in, the room seemed pretty normal. Years passed. I started to experience strange occurrences, including hearing voices that mentioned my brother's name during a phone call with my boyfriend, which scared him enough to end the call. The most terrifying experience occurred last night, around 2 am, when I felt a strong force pulling me to fall off my bed when I'm trying to sleep, accompanied by a sudden increase in air from the fan and cramping sensations. I was so afraid and I started to pray. After praying, the disturbances ceased. I picked up my pillows and phone and flee to my sister's room for safety. I will never sleep in that room alone again.
This room sounds like it need to be blessed with holy water or fire. The next story is from Headkicks.
For some background quickly, I have no interest in the paranormal beyond enjoying the occasional creepy movie. I'm also not a consistent Reddit user, so apologies if this breaks any rules. 5 days ago, late at night, tilde 9 p.m., I was grabbing some last-minute food items from a grocery store in town to bring to work. As I exited the store and returned to the underground car park, I saw 2 young children standing near the back corner of the car park. I didn't immediately have concern, but the way they stood so still and stared at me eerie. I shouted out, "Is everything okay?" but got no response. I started to approach, and as I did, they started to approach me as well. I can't explain it, but I was immediately terrified. My body was sending me red alerts like I was in danger big time. I managed to squeak out another, "Can I help you?" but got nothing. I'm sort of ashamed to admit I got in my car and tore off as soon as I could. They followed for about 5 seconds but stopped as I turned out of the car park. I glanced back for one last look, but they had turned and were walking back to where they came from. They never really acknowledged me beyond slowly walking in my direction. It was something about the way their heads stayed so still and how intently they walked toward me that just freaked me out. I called shop security on the ride home and asked them to go check it out. Never heard back. This has stuck with me, and I have no idea why. Thoughts?
All I can say in times like this, you should listen to your body. Our senses are said to be from our caveman days, and they had to survive in a world far more difficult than ours. To be honest, this is the second story I heard like this, and they actually called out even though they were free, but they said the little girl started moving toward them, so damn if you do, and damn if you don't. I just know I would get out of there, cause why are they down there acting like that? If there are people, that's not normal. I'm glad you made it out safely. The next story is from Nacho Average Queen. We're not from the same kingdom in case you're wondering.
I was in the shower last Thursday, and I heard my husband call me. I knew he was at work a few miles away, not due in for several hours, and didn't have any keys to the house. I use the car during the day, so I collect him when he's finished. I was startled enough by it to turn the shower off and check if anyone had come in the house. All the doors were still locked, but it was 100% my husband's voice. I rang him at work to make sure he wasn't hurt, and it wasn't some type of warning. He wasn't hurt. He was totally fine. We've lived in this house for almost 5 years without any kind of incident, so I'm unsure as to what it could have been. I mean, I know what I suspect it could be, but surely we would have experienced some activity before. Just to add, the days that preceded the voice were particularly hellish and stressful, so I'm open to the fact it could have been stress, but I feel it may have happened more than just the once if it was stress-induced. I'd be so grateful if anyone has experienced similar or has any ideas, could share.
This is so freaking scary. I had this happen to me once when I started working at a gas station. Someone called my name from the back room when I was in the store alone. The only way to the back room was through the door next to the cash register where I was. I was looking through the comments to see what people thought was going on and to find out a lot of other people have had something similar happen to them. The queen doesn't live anywhere near a graveyard, so that's out of the question. The only thing she could think happened was a spirit was attached to the mirror they had bought a week or two prior. The next lucky person to have a scary encounter is the Redditor baby girl.
I am a 19-year-old Muslim girl, and this is my story. I visited my homeland for my brother's wedding in 2013. I was 7 years old at the time. The house me and my family were staying, which is also our own house, is located near the cemetery area, which is surrounded by trees, abandoned houses that people haven't lived in for years, and a very few light. One night I was walking from my house to my uncle's house, which was at the end of the street, which is also a 5-minute walk. To get there you have to cross in front of the cemetery, or have to take another road, which will take way long. As I have been living there for quite some time, I was used to it. This night was also my birthday, so I was on my way to my party. I went alone as everyone else was already at my uncle's place. As I was in front of the cemetery, I saw a shadow, which looked like a little boy. By the looks of it, he looked younger than me, no shirt, just black shorts. All I saw was his back. He was just standing there facing the wall in a corner. I didn't think much of it at the time. I thought it might have been a kid just playing around while their father/grandfather was praying at the mosque located in the middle of the cemetery. So I called out to see if it was someone I knew or not, but he didn't react. Just stayed there to see what he does until my mum called me to come inside, quick to cut the cake. So I only looked away for a few seconds and I looked back into the area where I saw the boy. He wasn't there. I thought maybe he ran away, so I didn't think much of it and went ahead with my day. A few days has passed. There was still a few more days to leave the island and change back to the capital city, if where I live. And during this time I stayed at the island. I keep having weird dreams about being followed/chased by something or someone. It wasn't clear at the time, but it started getting worse. I started seeing the little boy in my dreams. Now I knew that this wasn't normal. So I told my mom about it. She suggested that I should just pray and do zikr to help it. It stopped happening for that period of time. After I changed back to the capital, I got distant with my prayers and zikr. I started having these dreams again, and still did not continue to perform my prayers and just let it happen. I know, how stupid. The dreams did not stop. I started getting paranoid and started seeing him inside my house now when I am always alone. He can't get close to me, but he is there. I see it, and I feel it every time it happens. It feels like he is taking my soul from my body. It feels like the whole house is shaking. Now that I think about it, I realize he has no face at all. After a month of going through this, and the physical reactions got worse, I decided to tell my parents about it, where they brought a man to perform ruqya on me. And that day, while he was reciting the Quran, I felt comfortable where I fell asleep. That's what I thought. My mum was there when this happened. She explained to me that while he was reciting Quran, I was laughing and my eyes were shaking, and I was just stiff the whole time. And when he finished, I woke up as if nothing happened. Now I am all safe from all of it, but I still get ruqya done to check just in case. But all of this still scares me to this day.
Holy frickin' cow, Frisk thing is frisked. I am so glad you're safe. This is horrifying, and I could only imagine what your parents were thinking as that was happening. For anyone wanting to know, a zikr is a form of prayer, while a ruqya is like an exorcism. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope y'all are all okay and well. Stay safe. See y'all later.